It's 8 p.m. in Banjul, and this is QTV News coming to you live from our studios on Caraba Avenue with me, Ansumane Sonyasi. Here are the main news headlines. The new special representative of the United Nations Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel on Thursday met the Gambia's president to formally introduce himself and thank President Barrow for supporting his candidature. At a roundtable discussion on Friday, Abubakar S. Jeng, the National Security Advisor, has countered public perception that the security sector reform has failed to make progress. $241 million was presented to 19 small and medium enterprises on Tuesday by the Giraffe Project under the Ministry of Agriculture. And the Managing Director of the Gambia Ports Authority, Usman Jobate, called for more stakeholder collaboration in addressing capacity challenges, inefficiency and congestion at the ports. And in international news, over 70 people, including 12 children, have died after a fire outbreak in a 5-story building in Johannesburg in South Africa. Well, stay tuned for more on these and other stories. The new special representative of the United Nations Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, Dr. Leonardo Santos Simao, met the Gambia's president on Thursday to formally introduce himself and thank President Barrow for supporting his candidature. Alusise reports.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres announced on 2nd May 2023 the appointment of Dr. Leonardo Santos Simao of Mozambique as his new special representative and head of the UN Office for West Africa and the Sahel. Dr. Simao succeeds Anadif Katir Mohamed Saleh of Chad and has more than 30 years' experience in public administration and international affairs. Speaking to the press after a closed-door meeting with President Barrow, Dr. Simao said the meeting gave him the opportunity to seek President Barrow's views on the region's challenges, including the struggle against terrorist extreme violence and also the humanitarian dimension of the problems of the region. He thanked the president for supporting his candidature as a special representative and renewed his office's support to the country's ongoing reforms programs.
This was an important meeting. His Excellency the President shared with me the progress made in the process of making the country, putting the country to overcome the difficulties of the past, and also the challenges which still persist, and namely the resources which are needed for the next steps of this process.
He revealed that the president expressed concern with the seemingly unending unconstitutional changes of government, the latest being in Gabon, but also to address the root causes.
In particularly the role of the United Nations to regulate some of the challenges like social media, which sometimes is used in a very irresponsible manner, but also on addressing the issue of giving assurance for sitting presidents also on their future once they leave power, so that they are not afraid of leaving power, that their future cannot be assured. So these are some of the issues which have to be dealt with by such an universal body like United Nations.
Dr. Simao is a medical doctor by training and a former Minister of Health and Minister of Foreign Affairs for Mozambique. He holds a master's degree in public health from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine and is fluent in English, French and Portuguese. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cissé.
Now, the aftermath of a 22-year-long dictatorship in the Gambia has prompted reform strategies by government to promote good governance, the rule of law and accountability in public institutions. One of the key reforms is security sector reform, which has been ongoing for more than 5 years. The National Security Advisor has countered public perception that the SSR has failed to make progress. Mohamed Lamin Choi tells us more.
Security sector reform is one of the key priority areas of the government's National Development Plan. The reform agenda was launched in 2017 by President Adama Barrow as part of government's transition from dictatorship to democracy. During the previous regime, security forces became a state machinery deployed as a tool for rights violations against the citizens. To move on from such a poor governance record, government's transition has a difficult task to reform the nation's security to be effective, efficient, and accountable to the public. As this month marks the 6th anniversary of the launching of the security sector reform agenda, it is crucial to take stock of its progress. To lay the foundation for reform, government has introduced the security policy, the national security strategy, and the security sector reform strategy. Abubakar S. Jang is the National Security Advisor.
Currently now, as we speak, there is an oversight of the security services. We are now accountable to the citizens of this country. Currently also the security services are now more oriented towards delivering optimal security and safety services to the citizens of this country. For the first time in the history of this country, the Minister of Defense, Minister of Interior, security service chiefs are held to account.
In the process of security sector reform, government is working with development partners, including civil society organizations. On Friday, the Office of the National Security Advisor, with support from the Center for Research and Policy Development, organized open and constructive discussions with civil society organizations on the ongoing security sector reform. Seth Matijau is the Executive Director of the Center for Research and Policy Development. I asked him about his impression of the progress of these reforms.
So within that period, you can see that about 4 policy frameworks, documents have been developed that is to guide the conversation, and these documents were developed in a consultative process. So today, I mean, in that level, we are very good at that. But now, yes, at the policy level. But now what we have to do is to move away from the policy, and this is one of the meetings that is trying to move away from policy to implementation.
Reforming the security sector is a long-term endeavor. According to the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance, DECAF, such a long-term endeavor involves changing expectations, habits and norms, as well as institutional rules and professional practices. I asked the National Security Advisor about the time frame for the government's security sector reform program.
We are looking around 2027 as a timeline. But then again, that is more of an indicator of a time. But I can also tell you that that time is only contingent on some of the activities, some of the strategies, and some of the key elements of the SSR to be completed. But I will hasten to add that even beyond that time, SSR will continue.
A consultative approach towards the security sector reform agenda of the government is critical to achieving our national target. Civil society organizations, including the Center for Research and Policy Development, are working collectively towards achieving an effective, accountable, and professional security sector. Mahmoud Lamin Choi, QTV News.
$241 million was presented to 19 small and medium enterprises on Tuesday by the Gambia Inclusive and Resilient Agricultural Value Chain Project, GIRAF, under the Ministry of Agriculture, with support from the World Bank. The story by Loliam Camara is narrated by Lena E. Igwenyipa.
The money is a matching grant for SMEs to promote the development of inclusive, resilient and competitive agricultural value chains, including rice, poultry, cashew and horticulture, including mango. The intervention is within the framework of Component 3 of the GIRAF project, titled Mobilizing Productive Private Investment Along the Value Chains. The grant will support private investments in productive activities and related services by addressing the major market failures that limit the financing of investments in agricultural value chains. Dr. Demba Sabali is the Minister of Agriculture.
Although agriculture is not the highest contributor to GDP, it, however, has the highest number of Gambians in employment. It continues to engage a significant portion of our active population, especially identified vulnerable groups disproportionately skewed in women and youth, and also the rural demographic. The Giraffe Project development objective seeks to promote the inclusive, resilient, and competitive agricultural value chains, focusing on smallholder farmers and agribusinesses in the project target areas, namely rice, maize, horticulture, cashew, and poultry in all the agricultural regions.
Motseka, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, said the funds will support and promote entrepreneurship in agricultural production across the country.
The matching grant scheme has 3 categories and target beneficiaries, namely Window 1 for individual and group applicants, targeting a total of 300 individuals and 60 groups with an amount ranging from $10,000 to $20,000, respectively, with Giraffe Project covering 80%, and then the beneficiary will contribute 20% of the needed funds. Then the second window for SME applicants targeting up to 10 beneficiaries with funding of up to $500,000, where the project covers 40% of the cost and the beneficiary contributes 40% of the remaining balance.
Mohamed Jawara spoke on behalf of the beneficiaries.
We, the beneficiaries, are eternally grateful for this unique opportunity to make a difference in our individual farms and communities by impacting as many lives as we possibly could. To my fellow awardees, I believe I represent the sentiment of all of us when I say that for every person awarded with a grant today, there are many more Gambians out there who could have been awarded. The World Bank, the Gambia government, and all other stakeholders have done their part. The onus is now on us to deliver the results.
Despite progress, multiple burdens of malnutrition persist worldwide. 795 million people are hungry. More than 2 billion people suffer from micronutrient deficiencies, according to research. And yet, various challenges continue to threaten global food security and nutrition. Smallholder farmers are key to ending hunger and undernutrition worldwide. Reporting for QTV News, I am Lena Iguinyuba.
And that report there will lead us to the commercial break, but we will be right back.
The art of juggling is a true spectacle of agility, coordination, and speed. A symbol of progression, precision, and mastery. "5G speed is like having the juggler in your pocket. With lightning-fast download and upload speeds, you'll easily be able to juggle even the busiest workdays. Whether you're a busy entrepreneur, a creative, or just someone who wants to stay connected, juggle your tasks with ease with QCell 5G speed. The future is here. It's fast, reliable, and efficient. First brought to you by QCell. We innovate, others follow.
set na judduwaale set na fi indi mii maa la amul tànn moo tax tànn ba ko moo tax grand seigneur nii ñetti saako yi lay xew léegi saaro bii kombo bii ak tropique bii moo ñëw ci réew mi ci maa la moo xam ne moo ñëw ci Gambie ci toll nii te amul benn tànn moo li ko fi indi borom réew président Barrow dem ca njiit si ñu ànd ak nguuri Gambie ci ndimbalu président Barrow ñu indi fi maa la maa xalla dafa cher dafa waaye ñu bëgg a dee mu ne xaar leen ma indi leen nag maa la mu gën a yomb boo dem ca GDC ci réew mi yëpp boo demee di fa am maa la wax lii di nga dem ca Baar nga dem Farafeñ nga dem Sooma nga dem Bansan nga dem Basse ak bépp boutique nag boo xam ne bii rek dafay jaay ci réew Gambie bi am na foo dem rek am na wholesale 50 kilos 1450 laa la wax ca GDC sa saaro moom lañ koy jaayee dana maalo mi amul tànn maalo mi sakkan na maalo mi neex na maalo mi saf na gis nga la waykat ba doon wax naan suñu maalo mi bu ñoree neex ku ne maalo neexul danga amul bi xaaral dama yekk nga seet réewi Gambie ma waxati te xam ngeen saa yu ma waxee rek noonu la maalo bi ñëw na de ñetti bokkul façon yi fii lañ ko indi jéggi see ko fi indi ànd ak nguuri gaan nag ci ndimbali kan président Barrow ñu lim maalo mi sakkan na neex na yomb na 1450 rek nga am saako fi da sakkan ci njaboot réew Gambie jóg leen de Gambie topp réew mi jóg leen maalo bi ñëw na.
Welcome back. Be reminded you're following QTV News coming to you live from our studios on Caraba Avenue, and I am Ansumana Eso Nyasi. Now, the Managing Director of the Gambia Ports Authority, Usman Jobate, has called for more stakeholder collaboration in addressing capacity challenges, inefficiency and congestion at the ports. He was speaking at a stakeholder consultative meeting on Thursday. More in this report. Consultative meeting of all key actors was organized, among other reasons, to introduce the Gambia Ports Authority's new board chairman, create a platform for stock-taking on challenges they encounter, and make suggestions for consolidating gains they have registered in the ongoing ports expansion and reform programs. Usman Jobate, the Managing Director of the Gambia Ports Authority, called for concerted efforts to address challenges stakeholders encounter in doing business at the ports, adding that to ensure improved efficiency in service delivery and to effectively address concerns over capacity and competitiveness compared to ports in neighboring countries, there must be close collaboration between stakeholders. And he shared some of the development programs currently ongoing, such as the expansion at the ports and the construction of a new port in Sanyang in Kombo South.
Ships come to ports to discharge cargo and leave the shores. So once they're at port, it's all expenditure. If they're sailing, it's earning freight. So the less time at bat is more profitable. That's why it's important to identify all the processes along the chain to ensure that there's improved efficiency. Now, what that means is if the capacity is constrained, it means business processes have to be improved.
The Commissioner General of the Gambia Revenue Authority, Yankuba Dabo, said his institution is highly committed to supporting the ports in its reform programs, as 65% of its revenue comes from the ports, and went on to stress the need to institute programs and reforms that promote competitiveness and efficiency, especially in service delivery. He echoed MD Jobate's call for close stakeholder collaboration.
But the most important thing that we need to do when problems comes, we look at them and we address them and we move forward. This is what we do. And to do that, we have to think together. It cannot be only GRA or only GPA or only the business community or other stakeholders. We have to come together and make sure that we discuss the issues and address them and we move forward. As I said earlier, Gambia belongs to all of us. So it is our collective responsibility to make sure that we address whatever issues we have. Where we have inefficiencies, we try to make sure that we come up with ideas, suggestions.
The newly appointed board chair, Keba Tamsir Njai, said the GPA is an important establishment that should be supported by all, as it provides essential economic services. And as he expresses gratitude for the appointment, he implores stakeholders, especially port staff, to always ensure effective service delivery.
I call this meeting a broadly tripartite meeting because customs, GPA, provide these services to you, the end users, who sell your products to the Gambian consumer who should be able to afford to buy it. So it affects the standard of living of the entire populace. I just want to say thank you for your readiness and for your presence. That shows that we're all willing to work together to move forward.
Following the event, stakeholders, including clearing agents and business owners, expressed their delight and commended the GPA management for the ongoing reform programs, which they say have addressed some of the challenges they encounter at the ports. Ansumana Eso Nyasi for KTV News. And from that report, they are now on to news beyond our borders. And we begin with some sad news. Over 70 people have died, including 12 children, after a fire outbreak in a 5-story building in Johannesburg in South Africa. As Jennifer Sonko reports, the building was said to have been occupied by homeless people, many of them migrants.
More than 50 others were reported to have been injured. Officials say the cause of the deadly fire is still unclear. The city of Johannesburg confirmed it owned the building. but said cartels had taken it over. An estimated 200 people were living apparently illegally in the abandoned 5-story building, with one resident saying many of them were foreigners. South Africa, with the continent's most industrialized economy, attracts millions of migrants, many undocumented from other African countries. Many properties around the area where the blaze happened have been deemed unfit to live in. Yet these old blocks, abandoned by their owners or the city authorities, are full of families, often paying rent to criminal gangs who run them. The building was raided by police in 2019 when 140 foreign nationals were arrested for illegally collecting rent. Residents spoke of their difficulty in escaping the blaze, and those that managed to escape said they were glad to be alive. The fire spread very quickly, affecting different levels of the building. It's a wake-up call for us to begin to address the situation of housing in the inner city, the South African President Ramaphosa said. The building used to be a home for abused women and children, but once the lease expired, it was hijacked, President Ramaphosa explained to reporters. A BBC report claimed that a civil society organization had taken the government to court when they tried to evict the residents. Local law provides that anyone evicted in such a manner must be provided with replacement accommodation. The local council is alleged said did not have the funds to rehouse that number of people. Investigations are continuing to determine what caused the blaze, but one resident said he thought he heard a blast. As search and recovery operations continue, officials said the death toll could rise. The blaze was the deadliest in the country in recent years and one of the worst worldwide. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jenna Bosonko.
Well, our prayers and thoughts are with the victims' families. Now, also in international news, the latest military takeover in Gabon may have ended one of post-colonial Africa's longest-running political dynasties that began when Ali Bongo's father, Omar Bongo, took power in 1967. Here, Mamoudou Mbodj investigates an exclusive club, of African nations where presidential succession has remained a family business.
If the coup in Niger had focused attention on coups in the Sahel, Gabon's will arguably shift the gaze to political dynasties, situations wherein ruling families maintain power through succession. Several examples of political dynasties exist in Africa, the more famous ones being the toppled Bongos of Gabon, the Nasingbes of Togo, the Debis in Chad, the Kenyatas and the Odingas in Kenya, the Kabilas in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the Akufo-Addos of Ghana. Dynasties are, of course, not unique to Africa. Names such as the Nehrus in India, the Bushes and Kennedys in the United States immediately spring to mind. So political dynasties have existed across both time and space in various forms and degrees. In Africa, there are 8 examples where sons of leaders, daughters seem less favored, had gone on to become leaders. In Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, son of first President Jomo Kenyatta, served 2 terms between 2013 and 2022. In Botswana, Ian Khama, son of the first president, Sir Seretse Khama, became the country's 4th president in 2008 and served until 2018. Ghana's Nana Akufo-Addo, in office since 2017, is the son of Ghana's president from 1970 to 1972, Edward Akufo-Addo. In Mauritius, Navin Ramgoolam, the son of the man who led Mauritius to independence in 1968, was prime minister from 1995 to 2000, and won office again in 2005 and served to 2014. The lineage followed by Chad, Togo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Gabon before the coup tells a different story. In Chad, current president, 37-year-old Mahamat Idris Deby, the youngest head of state on the continent, was installed into office by the country's military council when his father, Idris Deby, was killed on the front line fighting a rebel incursion in 2021, having been ruler since 1990. Citizens of Gabon and Togo have known little other than the rule of the Bongo and the Eyadema families, who came to power in 1967 and have ruled over their respective countries until Wednesday's coup in Gabon, which ended the Bongo's rule in the country. The Democratic Republic of Congo's Joseph Kabila, at the age of 29, took over power on the death of his father Laurent in 2001 and ruled until 2019. Many of Africa's post-colonial ruling dynasties have been established on the back of powerful and often long-serving presidents passing power down through the family. This perhaps explains the periodic media speculations about dynastic takeovers in countries where leaders have been in power for more than 2 decades. In Equatorial Guinea, Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo has been in power for 44 years. Paul Biya in Cameroon, 41. Denis Sassou Nguesso, Republic of Congo, 39. Uganda's Yoweri Museveni, 37. Afwerki in Eritrea, 30 years, and Paul Kagame in Rwanda, 23. However, analysts say the recent examples of Angola and Zimbabwe suggest that domestic takeovers are no longer acceptable. Jose Eduardo dos Santos ruled Angola for 37 years, but wasn't succeeded by family. And in Zimbabwe, political pushback foiled the planned Grace Mugabe takeover. In an increasingly youthful and urbanized Africa, with a growing distaste for inherited rule, it will become more difficult for leaders to install their children as successors. Okay, TV News, I'm Murumbu.
Quite an interesting piece there, and I'm afraid this is where we draw the curtains on this bulletin. But before we take a leave of you, here's a recap for main headlines. The new special representative of the United Nations Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel on Thursday met the Gambia's president to formally introduce himself and thank President Barrow for supporting his candidature. At a roundtable discussion on Friday, Abubakar S. Jeng, the National Security Advisor, has countered public perception that the security sector reform has failed to make progress. $241 million was presented to 19 small and medium enterprises on Tuesday by the Giraffe Project under the Ministry of Agriculture. The Managing Director of the Gambia Ports Authority, Usman Jobate, called for more stakeholder collaboration in addressing capacity challenges, inefficiency and congestion at the ports. And in international news, over 70 people, including 12 children, have died after a fire outbreak in a 5-story building in Johannesburg in South Africa. That's it for this bulletin. Join us tomorrow, same time for more news. Thanks for watching.